I want to go back to getting discovered.
Yeah.
I want you to know that exposure without action is entertainment. And that's fine, right? Exposure without action is entertainment.
Yes.
But exposure with action, that's discovering.
Yes.
That allows you, the audience, to have something tangible and non-tangible that allows them to take action. And most likely that action, the number one action that I would certainly recommend you lead them with, is sharing.
Welcome to Too Legitimate to Quit. Instantly actionable small business strategies with a pop culture spin. I am your host, Annie P. Ruggles, and my guest today is the absolutely fabulous Vinnie Potestivo. Vinnie Potestivo is an Emmy award-winning brand media advisor, personal brand strategist, and content coach. He is also the creator of I Have a Podcast, curator of indie podcast platform ihaveapodcast.com, and the host of I Have a Podcast on TV. His passion to inspire talent opportunities into impact has driven Vinnie and his team at VPETalent to become well-trusted connectors who sell, develop, produce, launch, and distribute while amplifying some of the most impactful original series and talent brands in modern pop culture. As a television network talent executive at MTV Networks from 1998 to 2007, he pioneered the way talent and artists claim control of their narrative by making them hosts, stars, and even producers of their own hit series. Having launched some of the most successful talent brands in modern pop culture, Vinnie continues to develop talent and talent-led projects and is an active member of the National Academy of Television Arts and Sciences. Y'all, did I mention he has an Emmy? Vinnie, I could have kept you in pre-chat this whole time because you have the most riveting backstory that makes my elder millennial heart just die. But I thought instead of being selfish, I should bring you on, actually hit record, not just keep you all to myself, and ask you, what do small business owners need to focus on this week?
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, I'm smiling ear to ear. First off, to answer your question, they should be focused on getting discovered, being more discoverable. And some of the things I'm going to talk about here are things we're responsible to do, some things we can be doing to make it easier to be discoverable, and then also other ways for more exposure.
Oh my gosh.
I think that some people get exposure and discovery. Those two words sort of like replace each other, and there's a big difference, and we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yes.
And I want to comment on your younger self. So I feel like when I was at MTV in the late 90s and early 2000s, I swear, if I had to think about the archetype of the viewer that I was creating content for, the socially conscious viewer who wanted to see what it was like to be in other social groups, but not have to be in other social groups, and take that vocabulary and experiences. If I had to imagine what that person looked like, it would be you to the T. So I am so excited to chat with you.
I'm so excited. That is like the best compliment.
And talk about MTV. I get emo when I talk about MTV.
I mean, I'm 38.
Yep.
And so I very much feel like I was born at the perfect time for MTV.
Yeah.
In that, like, I still stand by the fact that 1996 might have been the best single thing for albums ever. I already told you I found out that Kurt Cobain died because Kurt Loder told me.
Oh yeah.
And I stayed home from school. I was like, I can't do this.
You were afraid of 10 to the hour every hour for your entire
I was afraid of 10 to the hour every hour. I mean, seriously, I found out about Princess Diana on MTV.
Yeah.
Oh, which is today at point of recording, y'all. You'll know this by now, but you may not know this at point of recording. Queen Elizabeth II has passed away today. So interesting that we're talking about MTV, where I found out about Princess Diana when
we are
here on the day of Queen Elizabeth. So happy trails Queen Liz too. You were a complete badass.
Mm.
We will always remember those photos of you fixing up tanks during the blitzes. You are a freaking badass, Liz. But like, I remember Lionel Richie music videos on MTV. I remember the first time I saw Black Hole Sun's music video on MTV. Like, that was a life-changing music video.
Yeah.
Like, that was a brain blower. And then Kurt would come on and be like, I'd be like, oh God, who's dead? What's happening? Like, that's how I got. I mean, all of my Desert Storm World News was MTV, right? And so I think that's so interesting because those VJs, especially on the news side of things, they were the voice of our generation. And then we got Daria. Like, it was a magical freaking time to be figuring out your taste in the world, right? Because it wasn't just your taste in music, which is such a huge gateway to all things and all identities. But more than that, it was like, I want to be a socially conscious person.
Yeah.
So it was also the 90s. So everything back then was save the whales, save water, save the environment, right? And it had that fabulous, like, Portland crunch to an entire decade. And it was a perfect time to freaking love MTV. And so I love that you had a hand in it because I directly benefited from that hand. Now,
oh my gosh,
as a huge Catfish person,
yeah,
I could say that I'm still reaping the benefits of MTV.
yeah, right.
But MTV has changed into more unscripted content and less music, which is fine. But then there's still stuff like the VMAs, which we can learn lessons from. So I love that you, of all people, are talking about discoverability because if I could have picked, and oh my God, that compliment you gave me, because if I could have picked my life back then, I would have wanted to be discovered by MTV. Shit, I'm still waiting to be discovered by MTV, and I'm 38 years old, but you're right.
Yeah, but you want that call to come from Kurt Loder, you know.
Right, I want Kurt to call me up. But first off, though, if he's like, Annie, it's Kurt, I'm going to be like, who's dead? So maybe have him right way be like, Annie,
give a heads up.
No one's dead.
Well, we'll have John Norris give you a heads up that the call's coming in, so you're prepped. And then,
yes, please.
You know,
that
I
would
think
be wonderful.
When you talk about experiencing sort of these global instances that we all experience as we think about how do we hear about news and where, I think what MTV had back then, yes, it was a TV network. Yes, it was a platform. Yes, it was a media channel. But there was a lot of community that happened on MTV.
Yeah.
And we kind of hung out on MTV as a way to be plugged into each other prior to the internet, prior to social media. We could leave the television on and not have to be in the room to understand what was happening on TV.
Yeah.
And if you kind of really pull a scope back on what MTV did in the mid 90s, it was maybe 15 years old in the mid 90s. They just had a really big woke experience. They were no longer a rock and roll Americana network. They had now opened up to being all inclusive, all genre, all background, and they really took big strides at doing it. In 95, MTV Raps comes out.
Yes.
And then in 98, when I got to MTV, Ananda was already there. The shows that I started working on were like the Tom Green Show. I used to book. Get like audience. I get audience members and people in his skits for like the Tom Green Show, and like Blink 182 was going to have like a naked bike race in the studio, and I had to get people to be
of course they were.
Weird things that that come your way.
But I mean, MTV gave us the real world. I mean, that was a whole other thing. Is like, I learned about homophobia on MTV.
Oh, sure. Well, you saw it, right? Like it was a word. It was a word until you saw the action, and you saw.
I saw it, and I was like,
yeah.
I also saw the first bits of like sexual expression and sexual freedom on MTV, because I was like, oh, they don't seem like they're feeling totally ashamed about the fact that, they hooked up yesterday and now she's not interested. Like I saw that on MTV. I saw all kinds. And then, like the social issues and the wars and the deaths and the everything. But you're right. Like it was definitely a community builder, but within those communities, you just said Ananda, like, it's been 20 years. Her face is screwed into my head.
Yeah.
I could draw a sketch of her right now and I can't even draw, right? Like, but she's ingrained. And so that's why this idea of discoverability is so important. But I think there's something so interesting in that idea of like not only did MTV give us community, not only did MTV give us a lot of entertainment, there are people, there are personalities that landed on the scene after being discovered by MTV that have still never left us.
Yeah.
Right? I miss Kurt when there's news.
Yeah. It's funny to talk about MTV and with this theme of discovery, I didn't think about it. But MTV, the whole premise of MTV was a discovery network. It was to discover talent, to explore the music, the youth culture, for youth culture to discover new opportunity. Even you mentioned the VMAs. The VMAs is all about discovering.
Yes.
You know, and then what MTV discovered was two things. You know, well, I'll say this: they took storytelling and they discovered the music video format. They said if we give artists who can create beautiful 3, 4, 5-minute songs creatively, if we gave them some money, could they create us videos that are equally as beautiful? And then the artists proved that they could. And MTV used to pay a stipend to the labels, and the labels would give us the music videos. For a long time, MTV was the only music video network. So MTV had no problem shelling out the cash for videos. But then as more and more platforms came, I was at MTV from 1998 to 2007. I remember AOL Music getting like video premieres, and I was like, wait, AOL Music got a video premiere?
They're like, AOL Music?
Yeah, I thought we just automatically get it. Isn't that how it works? And Napster came in, and I saw the whole, you know, all of that sort of the hodgepodge of it all. But MTV gave artists 4 minutes to tell a story, and they radicalized that. They put social action into movement, into storytelling, into the vernacular of the public press, the private societies, communities. You know, they gave us ways to connect outside of our own audience. And then what MTV did was take that storytelling mechanism of 4-minute music videos and turn it into 30-minute reality TV episodes. And they did it with the first format, obviously The Real World. And to be really honest, the way that ultimately we pitched the show to Sharon Osbourne was The Real World with the Osbournes. And then Jessica got 30 minutes, and Ashton Kutcher got his 30 minutes, and like, Nick Cannon got his 30 minutes, and TJ Lavin got his 30, and now
he's got 11 kids. So, you know.
Wait, by the time of this episode, I think it might be.
We know that MTV was responsible for at least all 11 children of Nick Cannon, right? There we go.
Yeah, we just wanted production insurance for Wild 'N Out, just to make sure we had enough talent to always keep that show up. He's such a wonderful guy, and I learned so much from him. But that's what they did, is they created space for storytelling, right? They created space, and those were the first people that we gave the cameras to when I was there. When I left in 2007, do you know what MTV did when I left in 2007? They didn't give the cameras to the celebrity talent and creative adjacent talent. They gave it to the audience.
Oh.
And in light of that, I think social media boomed. They gave it to the kids of Laguna Beach, to the Jersey Shore kids, to the teen moms. Whereas when I was at MTV, I was focused on sort of, I was still bringing in the culture of music and that promise of it without letting go. What MTV did was lean into the audience. So two very different sort of school of thoughts. But
even so, that showed you that anyone could be discovered.
That's the thing. That's it.
Anyone could be on The Real World. Anyone could be, anyone could be on Teen Mom. Anyone, but you know.
A couple of prerequisites on that one. The same as Housewives. I had a couple of women move to North Jersey, and I was like, oh, well, you have to really, those shows, you really need to know the women to get in. So it's hard to, but anyway, we'll talk about it.
But the idea of like real world, including The Real World, but like everyday stories and everyday people are hot messes that are entertaining, but also there's a lot to learn from there too. Like
that's what it
there
was.
Can be good, happy stories, but damn, is it fun to watch that people are just as trashy and messy as you.
Well,
right?
we didn't try to do Father Knows Best with the Osbournes. We didn't try to do like Happily Ever After with Newlyweds.
No.
What we did try to do is like, America's Funniest Home Video on Punk'd. Something happened during the pilot that prohibited us from going in that direction. So we had to tweak the creative, and then ultimately the creative became Ashton kind of playing larger than life, not cinematically larger than life,
right?
But like suspension of disbelief larger. Like, how could you believe a kangaroo was stuck in a porta potty that you would go in it and then it would like? How did you think any of that? You know what I mean? Like, to the preposterousness of it all. He was playing. It was a social experiment. We were playing more with How much does the audience believe? How much does the celebrity believe? How much can we get away with it?
I mean, sometimes that social experiment was brutal. Like, I
had that job.
desperately remember in my soul the episode of Punk'd where Justin Timberlake thought his dogs got taken.
Well, his house was being
no. But here's the thing: his house got repoed. I know you were there, right? Okay, so the ultimate. Okay, Justin's holding it together. I know that you were there, and this is hilarious because I'm explaining to you what I saw because this was horrifying. We all know it's fake. Justin doesn't know it's fake. They show up, the repo trucks are like, one of them is probably you, like taking his furniture out of his house.
It's Dax Shepard, by the way. Blame Dax Shepard.
Oh my God.
Let's not forget where Dax got his cable start, his TV start, by the way.
And so Justin's like, wait. Okay, there's probably a mistake. And like, I'm Team Britney, so Justin's not my favorite, but this was still really cruel. But he's freaky. He's like, okay, I'm not going to freak. Like, everything's going to be fine. It's just a miscommunication. It's cool. So he's like calling his manager and calling his mom and whatever. And then finally he like sits on the curb because he can't get through to anybody because his team has been tipped off that he's about to be punked. So no one's answering. So he sits down and he calls for his dogs and his dogs don't come.
Yeah.
And he calls for his dogs and his dogs don't come. And so he looks at somebody and goes, where are my dogs? And I think whoever on the team just goes, yeah, we took the dogs. And he starts sobbing. And then Ashton runs out and he's like, Justin, it's a joke. Justin, it's a joke. It's cool. Like, too far. Sorry, too far. It's a joke. I thought we were about to witness the murder of Ashton Kutcher. Like, Justin went from depressed to enraged in like 5 seconds. But that's because it was real. That's how you know, like, not all of it's real, but that was fucking real.
So I have 3 reactions. One is, Ashton wouldn't let us do it. We couldn't do something if we thought they were tipped off. It wouldn't be fun. He didn't want to do it. Absolutely not. So there's a lot of integrity in that too. I don't believe he actually cried in the episode because we made a creative decision not to include crying, but you may have seen something that I have seen also. I don't know how to say this. But because, if MTV made Justin cry, that would make a lot of his fans maybe really mad at us. So we didn't quite show everything that you just described, but I saw what you saw. So we have to talk about this offline because I'm very curious about that. But, and then also so much so that on that same episode, they punked Mandy Moore. And I didn't know. So when the show was in development, it was a different show and something different was going to happen. And ultimately, it became what you all saw. I didn't know that. So I didn't realize that when I knew that Mandy was doing something with MTV and I was the person that worked closely on her schedule. If I had caught wind, I would have told her in a heartbeat. I told Mandy every single thing, anything I knew ever. They didn't tell me when she won a movie award. They wouldn't tell me. Like, oh, they're so mean to me. I'm like, what? Like, well, we didn't want you to tell her. I'm like, well, of course I'm going to tell her. She's got to know.
She's going to tell her. She's going to win. Come on.
By the way, you said 86, I think 84, 85,
I'm 84.
86. Mm-hmm. So my sister also was born 84. Mandy is born 84. My man that I've been dating for 11 years, born 84. There was something about having a brother and my brother and sister are 84. They were born 84, 85. I knew how to create stories and entertain my brother and sister better than myself, mostly because of how I grew up and what my job was around the house. I felt so to hear you at the top of this, I can get emo about it, but to hear you say like what you did gave me like tools to be able to, I really hear that and connect with that and was aware at a certain point at how much authority MTV had over youth culture. And that's when I started leaning into working with pristine talent that were, I don't mean to be a jerk, but like there was a couple of reasons why I left MTV. When the Ashley Simpson show got canceled because of the SNL debacle and her live thing, I tried to get the Katy Perry show approved and greenlit, but MTV told me Katy Perry would never be a star. When Benji and Joel from Good Charlotte, yeah, right. Katy thanks me all the time, by the way. When Benji and Joel from Good Charlotte had to leave All Things Rock, I tried to find the next rock host. I tried to hire Pete Wentz, and they were like, Pete Wentz, he's not even like the lead singer of the band, Vin. Like, what are you? Maybe you just don't.
Oh,
yeah, maybe you don't got it. They're like, but we have a hit show for you. It's called Tila Tequila. And I'm like, whoa, wait, hold on, what? What? I put Mandy Moore in her first movie. By the way, before reality TV, when it was just like television and MTV films. I got to put like Beyonce in her first film. I got to cast her.
Come on.
Not cast her, but audition. I got to be in the audition when she.
Well, but look at Mandy. Mandy's like a humongous TV star, movie star, everything star.
Well, Mandy.
She has transcended.
Yeah. Well, Mandy, Ashton, Nick, even especially TJ, the Osbourne, they fight for my rights to marry who I want to be able to marry and have the family. I mean, they show up in places in my life that were important, and that's part of the reason why I fought for TJ to be the host of the challenge when it was time to cast that. There was one other athlete that Buna Murray, the production company, wanted, and I knew that TJ was the one because we had a moment years earlier where he kind of was like, "Are you gay?" He's like, "You got to be my wingman." He's like, and it was the coolest like athlete moment where like we talked about everything we shouldn't have, and now it'd be so taboo, but there was so much respect and love and curiosity in that conversation that I felt if an athlete like this respects me in my presence, I can only imagine how he would represent me outside of the room. And I think the testament is that TJ kept that spot 20 years later, 30 seasons later of the challenge. You know, he's the face of the show that pushes the youth culture to their emotional and their physical challenge, their limits. And that's cool to know I had a hand in creating that. And that it stuck.
But think of it this way, like so many people that listen to this show voluntarily, involuntarily, we all understand that platform presence and exposure, to use the other word you used before, is a critical part of our work. Even this show, if no one knows about this show, no one can listen to this show, no one learns about me, no one learns about my guests, it kind of goes nowhere, right? And so I think it's so interesting that you bring the point, because one of the things that people bring up to me all the time is I have a platform, but I don't want to get political, or I have a platform and I don't know how to represent people, or like me, like I am a white woman. How do I bring up topics that are important without seeming like I'm trying to be some kind of white savior or a know-it-all? Like, how do I broach these things? But rather than the how, I just want to point out the fact that you're saying that like these people that you had relationships with, how they showed up mattered, and how they showed up for you and how they showed up on TV was consistent.
Oh,
right.
Yeah.
And so, and they were brave and they were bold and they were unique and they were themselves and they were authentic before authenticity was a buzzword. But they had to navigate the same stuff too. They had to be like, wait, hold on. Are you gay? Can I ask you some questions that are too taboo? Like, right. They had to show up in that way. And I think that is such an important lesson for all of us trying to figure it out. Is I can't tell anybody how to figure their politics out or their life out or any of that. That's not my place. But what I can say is you doing the work of figuring out how you're going to figure that out matters and impacts people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I love that you brought that there, by the way. I just want to point out that, not wanting to be political is being political.
Yes,
not
exactly.
talking about politics is something, completely different. I worked hard to acknowledge time, because I think time is a bandit. It gives too much, it takes too little, or it takes too little, it gives too much. Either way, it's never right, it seems like. I'm always trying to find like al dente. I want that perfect consistency. So I took my 12 months of the year and I thought hard about like 12 words, like to be impeccable in my speech. I thought about 12 words that I would want to be more proficient in, to be more exemplary of, and to learn, to update myself on. And by having these 12 words, every single month is a different word. This month is cultivation. Last month was excellence. So last month, in the month of excellence, I liked sharing how to win awards, because people don't know how to win awards. And when you're excellent, there is nothing wrong with asking for a team award for something you most likely created with more than just one person, whether it was a designer or a copywriter or someone you shared some ideas with, or So helping them in words, right? But cultivation is my word now. But just having a specific word every month allows me to live my sort of SEO strategy, to live my content strategy and my output strategy. So I'm not worried about how am I going to find ways to talk about cultivation. I'm just studying it, so it's on my mind. So if we go out for drinks with my friends, that's what I'm talking about. When I see my mom and my brothers and sisters, I'm talking about cultivation and cultivating. And there are 3 other words that I use globally all year round: inspire, impact, and ignite. Those are words I love being associated with on Google and found, and I like being discovered next to those words. So I just make sure I use them in my actions, in my questions, in my answers, in my thoughts. And then I don't have to worry about how do I take this headline and make it more SEO friendly for me, because I'm just like living my SEO life. It really helps with clarity for me.
That is the most beautiful depiction of SEO I have ever heard. Like, that is chef's kiss gorgeous, in that we all get hung up in like, oh, are these high performing keywords? Are these low performing keywords? And that's important. I'm not talking SEO, but for people that are getting stuck or people that are hesitant to put yourself out there, I want them to adopt your method, which you said. And I was like, oh my God, I'm going to cry about SEO right now. I love being discovered next to these words.
Yeah.
So my question to the audience is, what words do you want to be? I mean, I'm waiting for the Henson Foundation to sue me, because the word I want to be discovered next to is Muppet, and that's going to bite me in the ass eventually. But until, I'm a strategy Muppet. That's me, baby.
I like it.
But I also want to be next to the word strategy, and I also want to be next to, I don't know, all kinds of stuff. So I love that definition. What terms, what words do you want to be, not want to be, do you love to be discovered next to?
You know, discovering in the 1950s looked like being at the right place at the right time, and a casting director saw you and had a film and looking at next to our producer, see, and I'm going to make it famous, see, and I know everybody in Hollywood, and I'm a gateway in. Instagram, social media changed that, right? So now those very same connectors, casting directors, like my previous self and my colleagues, are now on those platforms looking for people. Those platforms are the right place. We are the right time. And when that happens, we're able to make that connection, right? But these are the things that I talk about helping us be more discoverable. These are the breadcrumbs that really lead to being found in the places where you want to be found. And you have a say in how you want to be found. Michael Bublé launched his whole career coming out on a Christmas special. Everyone will say it was a Christmas special that launched his. He knew it. That's why he did it. He thought, hey, wouldn't that be great if I was known as the voice for all family, all Christmas, and then they buy my rest of my music all throughout the year. But this is the thing that I can really have ownership of. And look at what he does.
I mean, Mariah is currently trying to trademark Queen of Christmas.
Yeah. You're seeing that in real life action. You're seeing the retroactive version of being like, that's the power of talent brand now versus then. That's what you're seeing Mariah do. With all due respect, she should have already been there.
Right.
But those contracts didn't look like that back then. No. You know what I mean?
But also, like, if Mariah wants to be the Queen of Christmas, we're just going to let Mariah be the Queen of Christmas.
Right now.
Come on.
Yeah, imagine the content.
Let her have it. Come on. I mean, God, I'm just like going back through my MTV past, and I'm like, I sang Hero at my second grade talent show. Come on.
Oh, wow.
MTV was a big ass part of my life.
That's so funny. I know. You said a music video earlier, and I have had Blind Melon's No Rain in my head ever since. It's like all I hear when I think of like my first MTV epiphany.
Oh my gosh.
Although I like No Rain, but I'm not a fan of November Rain. I'll tell you that song. That song was like 11 minutes.
Okay, that is a 12-minute music video. Great music video, though. The cake. Oh my God, I think it terrified an entire generation that like something bad was going to happen to your wedding cake. I went to a wedding this weekend, and the whole time I was like, what if someone crashes into the cake? And it's like, why would anyone crash into the cake? This is not a Guns N' Roses video.
But maybe you were inspired to create like a reel or something that got you this close to full-on devastation, full-on November Rain devastation.
But that's what like branding can do when you allow your brand branding to be multisensory too, because
that's it.
We love this music. Maybe we discovered the music because of the video. Maybe we knew it already, but like, you take Bittersweet Symphony, which is such an absolutely epic song.
Yeah.
And then you do two things with it. Number one, you put it at the end of Cruel Intentions.
Yeah, of course.
And just devastate an entire generation that like now anytime we see a convertible, we're like, ooh, Bittersweet Symphony.
I live here in Brooklyn. I live right by the Kosciuszko. I drive by that graveyard all the time.
Well, tell the ghost of Ryan Phillippe that I say, hey, what's up?
Yes.
Sorry for the spoilers for Cruel Intentions, y'all. But on the same point, I will never forget the Bittersweet Symphony music video because I thought it was the most badass, terrifying thing I could ever imagine because I am a highly empathic, move out of the way person. And the entire music video, he's just walking in a straight line.
So focused.
Unmoving, bumping into people, knocking them down, jumping over cars. Little old ladies be damned. Doesn't matter. Just singular focus. And I remember being like, that is incredible because it changed the relationship that I had with the song. I was like,
wow,
this is a song about focus. It didn't occur to me. Cruel Intentions made it a song about grief.
Oh, yeah. You're absolutely right.
Before that, I thought it was just a triumphant, beautiful string chorus of like, ooh, this is a song that makes me feel like heavy in my feels. Cruel Intentions made it about grief. The music video made it about focus. Now it's about all of those things interchangeably. But we don't necessarily do that. Like I can see you and your freaking Emmy behind you. I can see that. But this is an audio only podcast. They can't see you. They can't see me. And so how am I maybe depriving them of a multisensory experience akin to a music video? Or if I am doing something that's online only, should I be taking it offline? If I'm doing something sensory, should I add more senses? Like I really love this idea of using music videos as a way to be like, what layers of your brand aren't in place yet?
Yeah, and where is there room for imagination and creativity? To be really honest, unbounded, right? You kind of led to something, and I talk about the future of podcasting often coming to television. I think that podcasting and narrowcasting, like social media, fit really well on the broadcasting distribution model of television. If you want to know what I mean by that, it's like we know what radio on television looks like. We all have channel maybe 1200 something, music choice, and we know what radio on TV looks like. And we know what music videos on TV look like. Now we know what music videos on YouTube and every place else look like when they're not, on demand.
Yep.
Maybe if you were like Annie and I, you grew up with the TV Guide scrolling channel.
But I remember the little talking head things on the channel. They'd be like, this week.
Yeah, like dinner and a movie. Yeah, Dave would be like, the first time we just to get you to watch the TV Guide back then. It's so funny to think of. But I think that podcasting, narrowcasting, social casting fit in the broadcasting spectrum. And I think that we've seen hundreds of TV channels now be added in our lifetime. So now we, in my lifetime, it was MTV and Fox News were like, and CNN were like the the three new networks.
And look where we are now. We have OAN and a bunch of other shit.
I remember I worked at MTV and I went to grandma's house and I remember looking at her TV and we were channel 20. She only had 25 channels on the TV. So I remember being like, oh, how lucky I'm one out of 25. That's so cool that I remember thinking, oh, barely legal 20. In New York, that was. Or now when I try to find it, I'm like, oh, people don't even, I want to go back to getting discovered.
Yeah.
I want you to know that exposure without action is entertainment. And that's fine, right? Exposure without action is entertainment.
Yes.
But exposure with action, that's discovering.
Yes.
That allows you, the audience, to have something tangible and non-tangible that allows them to take action. And most likely that action, the number one action that I would certainly recommend you lead them with is sharing. right? Before they even call you, share your number. Before they hire you, share the opportunity. Sharing is the most valuable opportunity that you can give somebody. Sharing. So being a guest on a podcast and having a podcast allows me the opportunity to say, well, if you like what you heard, then you can listen to my podcast, and I continue doing this, and Annie and I will continue to have more of a conversation. We're going to continue to make more content and stay in early, but I'm giving them the option to connect with. But that's the action that they can take.
Because it's deepening the connection. Otherwise, they just binge, right?
And they consume, and there's nothing wrong with consuming, because that's the only action you kind of provided them with. Exposure without actions, it's consumption, is entertainment, right? Exposure with action, and the action being share, and the share being share my story, share my contacts. That's networking. Share my resources, share my experiences, share my services, products. Giving people assets to share makes you inherently so much more discoverable. A lot of us are highly exposed. A lot of us have no problem with visibility, and if we do, then we can talk about that in a separate conversation. Maybe I'll come back. I'll talk about visibility. But let's just say you're not in the beginning stages necessarily of your career. You're deep in it. You've got momentum, and you're looking for ways, one, probably to stand out. I want to talk about discoverability with action. That's winning awards so that your name can be put on an award-winning list so that people looking for experts in your field find you. Also for the press release that your publicist puts out, and make sure you target local news, maybe national news, industry news, and let them know of the wins, right? Also, my favorite part is turning anything that we do in real life to data. And IMDb is a great place right now, especially for podcasters. So if you have a podcast, I'm about to blow your mind on this one. You know how you go to IMDb for your favorite TV shows, your favorite actors? So IMDb also acknowledges that podcasts are a viable intellectual property. And the same exact way that television shows and films are on IMDb, you upload. I'll send you. I have a free resource. It's called audiolinked.com. I'll send it to you afterwards. But it's a walkthrough. You don't even have to pay for IMDb Pro to be able to do it. And you upload your podcast to IMDb. It gives you executive producer credit. It gives you host credit. It gives you the ability to tag all of your guests. Also include your production company, any awards that you've won, and an infinite amount of uploads of video and photo assets that you've created for your podcast. Shit. And then it goes and tells Google everything.
Okay.
It's the best trick I know.
But that's freaking huge for me. I mean, I'm just taking this selfishly. I'm like, because I have a pop culture podcast.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So how about that? How about get discovered in the pop culture geist, in the pop culture world on IMDb? And now if people go to TRL, because that was a show they liked, and they looked at talent executives, whoever cast that show, and they see my name, they click on my profile, and they scroll down, and they'll see your podcast that I recently appeared on. And you're able to now leverage my appearance on your podcast as a form of discovery. And that's a data point that happens on IMDb. So it's really
freaking
big.
Out, you guys. The audience is, the listeners are like, oh yeah, what a great thing. I should look into that. Meanwhile, I'm like, must do now. This is huge. I'm like weeping.
If you believe the creator economy is coming, or if you believe we are already in it, IMDb and LinkedIn are two places that I love being on. I feel like look a little exotic on both platforms to both audiences, whether I'm helping creatives with their business goals or business-minded people with their creative goals.
But it's nice to be exotic. That's again why I'm doing all this Muppet branding. Is like, do I look like the typical person who teaches sales? Maybe. Do I act like the typical person who teaches sales? No, right? And therefore you're like, let me work that exotic. Let me work that. Let me work that Punky Brewster energy.
I love it. I love knowing that something about me is exotic and unparalleled or uncomplimentary or unlike anything in the industry. For me, I don't love being compared to a lot of other people. So like when all of a sudden I felt like there were a lot of unscripted reality casting directors, all of a sudden I was like, cool, now I no longer have to do that. And now I can show people how I did it. I can show the networks how I did it. I can show companies how I did it. And I built talent departments and casting teams for all different types of companies that that want to work with influencers and don't know how, that want to have a team of talent that they can help leverage and build an infrastructure that turns them into stars. And how do they turn into the platform that does that? For me, it's all about community building. MTV took the audio stars and married it to the video stars. They built community by marrying two audiences. So everything MTV out of the gate did was music audience, video audience. And in my definition, like the mathematical, you see, I like mathematical equations.
Yay! But I love that idea of like bringing together the crossroads of two things. I mean, the whole reason this podcast even exists is because I'm a pop culture whore and I love business strategy and I love them with the same fervor. So why wouldn't I combine them?
Yeah.
And then I got to bring in my third love, which is people, right? Because I was like, even though I have a pretty vast pop culture knowledge, I don't like everything. And I certainly don't know everything, nor is my expertise particularly broad beyond marketing, branding, selling, that area up for super small businesses. And so I thought the show would be pretty fun for a while if it was just me talking about the stuff I love. But what if I can marry three audiences? What if I can marry three loves? My love of pop culture, my love of business strategy, and my love of other people's brains. Right. And so I love all of this rich stuff that you're talking about with sharing and partnering and relationships and even influencer culture, because now that we're talking about this never really occurred to me before. I feel like MTV invented the influencer.
I think that we empowered youth culture to influence economies and business. I think that's part of the ethos and what made MTV so successful. I agree.
Man. So to anybody out there who is consistently putting out content and is just finding crickets, right?
Yeah.
They're trying to get their exposure. They're trying to get their discovery. They're trying to get like that next opportunity and they're willing to make it themselves. But wouldn't it be incredible if it came from somebody else? If they're putting out content that hasn't found its audience yet, what do they do?
Cool. So it's really hard because it's such a personal question.
Right.
So I wouldn't want to blanket, I wish there was one solid answer.
Right.
Look, I think the solid answer is stop. Look at the patterns for better or for worse and lean into them. Whatever is working or isn't working, prove it. If you think something isn't working, prove it. Prove that it doesn't work so you feel confident in the decision that you no longer have to try things that aren't working because you don't get the results you're getting. And maybe that will clear your workload and workspace for the space that focuses on things that do have maybe marginal growth. And maybe if we look at that marginal growth and we stop and we dissect the patterns there, we'll see certain things work better than others. I don't want to get too like soft in an answer, but like that's to me where it starts.
Pattern recognition is critical. I think that was a perfect answer.
Final answer. Locking in my answer.
Lock it in. Lock it in. Speaking of final answers, I got two more questions for you before I promised I would let you get back to your beautiful day. But this has just been revelatory. And I feel like I need to write a fan letter to like every single person we've talked about today. Like, dear Kurt, dear Ananda, dear Dave, dear Carson, dear everyone, dear you, my God. But like, dear Neve, dear Max, dear every guest host ever. Like, let's just write a little love letter to MTV. But I think pattern recognition is extremely important. So I guess I have three more questions. The last of the content questions is, once you're out there, I think there's an idea of entrepreneurship to entertainment or avenues or anything like that, where it's like, well, I really am going to have to be sharkish, or I'm really going to have to be narcissistic, or I'm really going to have to be pushy to beat out all of the competition when it comes to getting discovered. Do you agree? What are the traits that are required in order to have the tenacity to do this right?
Well, I think that, there are lots of different ways that people will achieve their success. And if being bullish gets you the results that you appreciate and that you enjoy, then being bullish is the approach that probably works best for you. Just be mindful that people will forever know you as the person who was being bullish to get those, results. if being kind and considerate is the way that you can kill them with kindness, and sweetness is the way that you find more opportunities, then I think you sort of lean into your strengths. Let me answer this question. So for me, one of the things I wanted to do in this iteration of my career now, because I'd worked at networks and production companies before, is I didn't want to let someone pay me to do what I love doing. I didn't want people to pay me to discover talent, to develop talent, to come up with new ideas. I give out new ideas every single day. People are like, why? You don't protect your ideas? No, they're words that were given to me probably from somebody else in my journey. I really, truly don't believe that I have an idea. If I felt like it was an idea that I could execute, it would be different. But I feel like I have a lot of ideas based on the opportunities that I've seen on other people's platforms that I can connect people who I know have a voice and can leverage that audience for a greater good. So for me, I needed to make sure that whatever I sell, whether it's my one-on-one services or something like that, that I wasn't gating what I love doing the most with some type of fee or something like that. So that to me meant so I created a membership place. I call it my Creator Hub, and I invite everybody in, and it's a free resource. And the way I get paid from it is I actually get companies that ask me to do they'll ask me to maybe host a live social audio event or maybe a podcast episode, and I'll turn it into a masterclass, and I'll have them sponsor the masterclass about that product and definition of how that works. And I'll have them offset the cost of membership so that I can continue to let people in to my space for free. But if brands want to pay me for me to bring new information out, and all I'm doing is hosting it, I'm giving it my stamp of approval because I'm being extremely selective with the brands that I actually bring into the ecosystem, because they are products that I need to be working with and using myself. So, and I have a pretty specific brand. My brand is very similar to a solopreneur, or maybe someone who has a team of 15 or smaller, or someone who makes maybe less than 10 million a year. But they've got product out there and services out there and momentum and clients. And we're just looking for a way to stand out. We talked about MTV and the VMAs. I love helping people win awards. Some of the ways entrepreneurs can win awards, first off, you have your 40 under 40, 50 under 50. You have your obvious places like that. But think about the lifestyle bucket too. There's a reason why, what's it called when Bachelor, most eligible Bachelor, most eligible bachelors, you'll see these in there's a reason why those people win those awards. And by the way, you have to accept an award like that for your name to be put in print. So some celebrities, you said this earlier about choosing how you want to be discovered. Some celebrities are given awards that they don't want, and they say, no, thank you. Unfortunately, I won't be able to, accept that award just because they don't necessarily need to be aligned with everyone who wants to give them an award. It's unfortunate, but it's a bit of a marketing scam.
Yeah.
And that's where I think we have the power of choosing how and where we get discovered. And you nailed it when you said it's all about content. We talked a lot about reality TV back in the day. That's how we did it back in the day. But now it's about having an Instagram account. It's about having something there when people find you. And then the part about when you asked about if we're putting out content and it's not being discovered, I would say, well, then maybe just look at where you're sharing that information. If it's not connecting, maybe on Instagram, maybe on Instagram Reels, maybe it's Instagram feed, maybe it's Twitter. There's so many new platforms that we can be trying. So
yeah, I mean, IMDb, holy cow!
Yeah, you're gonna love IMDb. Yeah, that's big. That's big.
All right, now I really do have 2 more questions for you. Okay. So, all right. Looking into the beautiful future, you are about to receive a Lifetime Achievement Award from the VMAs. What music is bringing you up to stage, and who is presenting your Lifetime Achievement Award?
Oh, I hope it better be Mandy Moore.
Hi, Mandy.
I would want it to be Mandy. I'd want it to be like Mandy and Kelly, Ashley Simpson, Hillary Duff. But what would come up, to be honest, probably Candy, just to be really...
Come on, stick it to Mandy. It's got to be Mandy.
Totally.
Yes.
It's where my MTV journey started. It's where her MTV journey started. And also my name's in the liners of the CD. So I think that's old school cool.
I mean, that makes you the coolest person I know. Faux show. This is the kind of thing where I want to go back in a time machine and be like, find one of the millions of times I was singing Candy. I mean, up to yesterday, and be like, P.S. you have a friend in the liner notes now.
Yeah.
Everything works out okay. Everything works out okay. All right, Mandy. So clear your calendar for VMAs. Let's say 20. How long do you want before this lifetime achievement? I think you're ready now, but
I'm ready. I'm like 5 years away. I'll be ready.
All right, cool. So 2027, Mandy.
Yeah.
Clear your calendar. You're gonna be needed.
And Man actually was the first one to thank me when she won her movie award. She's the first person to ever thank me in like an award speech, which I thought was pretty neat. So,
well, talk about someone that deserves every inch of her success. I love you, Mandy Moore.
Yeah.
And I love to hear that you are just as lovely as we all assumed you are. All right, Vinnie, but in the next 5 years before your Lifetime Achievement Award at the VMAs, where and how can our listeners learn more from you? I know you mentioned your free resource. Give us those deets again, please.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. If you're looking to win awards, if you want to know how to make money, by the way, if you have a podcast and you're not making money, if you have a social media account and you're not making money, I have a list of marketing influencer indexes that you should be on. I have a list of awards I want you to know about. VPE.tv is my website. And I also have like 500 other resources that I include in there from like everything that I use to be successful in my endeavors. But for me, it starts with like a hello and a what's up. I hang out on LinkedIn a lot. So if you're on LinkedIn, swing by, search for me and say hi. And we'll take it from there, to be really blunt.
Oh, I want everybody to reach out and say hi so that they can also get the phenomenal gift of your brain and possibly like a life-changing compliment in the process, like the one you gave me.
Oh, I appreciate that.
This has been so heartwarming and actionable and jaw-dropping all at once. You have made this elder millennial so freaking happy. Thank you for being here, being my guest today. And thank you also for your contributions to my childhood.
Oh my gosh. Thank you for being there for me in the 90s and early 2000s and for picking up what I was putting down and for being here in this moment on this loop that we're in, this reciprocal loop that we're in right now, where I get to make good on some of that content I made 20 years ago with someone who was in the room literally watching what I was watching at the same time. I think that's pretty cool.
And Justin, we all know you cried. Okay. Vinnie and I are going to take that later, but you cried your little eyes out, which doesn't surprise anyone that loves Britney. Anyway, y'all, I will be back in just a second with my final thought and your homework for the week. So go crank some Mandy Moore, but don't forget to come back. Well, hey there. Boy, this episode made me desperate for a time machine. Little 12-year-old Annie, 1996, would have lost her friggin' mind about the potential of being associated with MTV in any capacity. And that thing I said about having a friend in the liner notes of Mandy Moore's first album, yep, totally would have found an AOL chat room to brag about that in until my fingers fell off. But back then, I also know I would have rejected the idea of me being in the spotlight. It's all well and good for my pals or Vinnie or Mandy Moore to have celebrity pals, but me out there being myself, terrifying. And I was a child actor, y'all. It was as if I longed to be an overnight sensation and household name as long as I never had to open my mouth or be seen by anyone. In some ways, I'm still living in this dichotomy, putting out content like this show every single week, saying my spiel on as many other podcasts as will have me, applying for speaking gigs, the whole 9 yards, but all the while saying, it would be great if you picked me, but please continue to ignore me if not. No more. Today, our homework is to apply for an award. See Vinnie's guide at VPE.tv if you need some inspiration. But get out there and submit yourself or your team for something. I have less than a year and a half to get onto a 40 under 40, so that's going to be the first place I look. The critical part here is not to let imposter syndrome write your application. Sparkle unashamedly. Brag about yourself, even just to practice. You have accomplished amazing things. What if, just this once, you let yourself fully own them? Maybe you'll win. Maybe you won't. But either way, you'll be putting yourself out there to be discovered, throwing up a beacon that declares, I'm here, I'm fabulous, and I solve problems beautifully. What could we accomplish together? Hey, thanks for listening. If this episode kept you laughing and learning, I have 2 requests for you. First, make sure you hit that subscribe or follow button, depending on your platform, so you never miss an episode. And also, more importantly, if you are looking for support, inspiration, networking, collaborations, or just a chance to hang out with me, Annie P. Ruggles, and our fantastic guests, make sure that you are a member of our LinkedIn community, The Legitimati. It is a weird and wonderful place. I can't even believe it's on LinkedIn, and we want you there. You'll find the link in the show notes. Big shout out, as always, to the fabulous dudes who helped me make this show. My producer and editor, Andrew Sims of Hypable Impact. My theme composer, Riley Horbasio. And my show art creator, Francois Vigneault. See you next time.